The main characters.
I spent a lifetime doing what I do, and I made some money, more than I can use. You are my goddess, my insecure sweet peach, and I will give up everything if you will be with me. Don't let us down, honey. Don't let us down. Don't let us down, honey. I said
James Howard Lindsay II. James is a tall, dark man. At 6'3", he seems taller, as he could be described as having perfect deportment. He never slouches, and has an air of a man full of confidence and correctness. At close to 40 years of age, he shows no overt signs of aging, still athletic and fit. An analytical mind, his intelligence that can match that of anyone. He plays racquetball competitively and jogs and goes to the gym regularly. Brought up in Boston, Massachusetts as a child, he was sent to the well-known boarding school St. Paul's School, Concord, New Hampshire. He enjoyed his years at St. Paul's and was an avid sportsman, where he excelled in rowing. His father, also James, rowed at St. Paul's, and in line with the school tradition, James Jr. was assigned to Hallicombe Boat Club, one of 2 boat clubs at the school, as was his father. At the annual inter-house dorm run, which takes place late in fall term, usually in early to mid-November, students are invited to earn points for their dorm and club by running in a 2-mile cross-country race. James won the race in a time of 9 minutes 55 seconds, a record which stands to this day. The school, steeped in tradition, was boys only until it went co-ed in 1971, and it was at St. Paul's that James met his childhood sweetheart, Chrysalyn Howes. During a weekend in the fall term, the student council holds cocktails, a formal dinner dance. No alcohol is served, but each dorm's prefects set their students up with members of the opposite sex from other dorms. Chrysalyn and James were paired at the dance and hit it off immediately. Outside of his sporting ambition and student work, James only had time for Chrysalyn. On leaving St. Paul's, he went to Harvard, as did his father, and studied business economics, where he gained a first-class degree. Naturally, he rowed for Harvard and won 2 gold medals in the National Collegiate Rowing Championships in consecutive years. He travelled to England with Harvard University Rowing Club and won at Henley Royal Regatta, beating Yale in the final of the Thames Cup. He sat the CPA exams after gaining an MBA at Harvard Business School and has worked as a CPA ever since qualification. He now works for a top business accounting practice, Healy, Jerome, Weiss and Holdstock, who run a nationwide operation, head office in Boston, where he is a partner in the firm. His day-to-day life involves helping large businesses make decisions at the highest levels, investigating corporate fraud and steering companies in Chapter 11 bankruptcy back to solvency. He is highly thought of in his business life, where his confidence and ability to affect those around him in a positive way has made him revered. His subordinates and clients alike have total respect and belief in him. Socially, he is not comfortable with small talk, but will suffer in silence if the occasion merits it. Chrysalyn will cover for him under such circumstances. However, on the big stage, where James will be obliged to make a speech on behalf of his firm, he will become a wonderful raconteur, relying upon his unrivaled business knowledge coupled with amusing quips from his Harvard days. A man whose formative years ooze tradition, James's personality is to some extent bound by the correctness that comes with this kind of tradition, upbringing, his education, and his job. His natural demeanour, whilst genial, is also very reserved and controlled. He finds it difficult to show a more avant-garde and ebullient side to his personality, which only surfaces for minute periods on the odd occasion when he has consumed too much alcohol. He is bound by the rules that governed his life as a child and adolescent, and by his chosen profession. He is revered by his peer group, who refer to him as the Rock. He has only two close friends from his days at both St Paul's and Harvard, Greg Anderton, who is an IT expert, and William Wainwright, a psychiatrist. James and Chrysalin enjoyed a good life together, and although they've never married, lived together as partners for almost 15 years. It's probably the only unconventional thing James has ever done. Then came a day that changed James's life forever. Chrysalin arrived home and announced that she could no longer stay. She had met someone else and had to move on. In fairness, they were both devastated. James felt that he failed in some way. He had never failed at anything in his life, and the departure of Chrysalin became unbearable. Even more so when Chrysalin announced her marriage. Although invited, James did not attend the wedding. That was 1 year prior to this story beginning, and is also the reason why James moved from Boston to LA to start a new life. Naturally, he's with the same firm, just a different location. During the course of this story, he will have used all of his analytical abilities, his intellect and his dry wit. His wit is often mistaken for starchiness. His natural reservations will be stretched to the limit, as will his stoic nature. He becomes more open and approachable as his natural character is able to start breaking free of his lifelong inhibitions.
Let's take it all to another level. We can make it, create it, steal yourself and work it out. Nothing can stop us. We're in the castle, built on a love. I don't care, no, I don't care. I don't care where we're going, where we're headed for. No, I don't care. I don't care where we're going, 'cause I love you.
Marsden Hugh Kingsley. Mars, as he is known, was born in England. His father, who died 5 years ago, always told him he was conceived in a field by a lake, which is why he was named Marsden, the true meaning of his name being a field near water. He never knew whether this was true, and he didn't really care either way. His mother died when he was 11, and his father brought him up thereafter. Mars attended an English independent public school, which differ from US public schools as they tend to be fee-paying schools. Mars could therefore be described as having a similar education to James, certainly in his informative years. Mars spent his adolescent years at Epsom College, a school with a good reputation for producing bright and somewhat academic young men. Whilst reasonably sporty, Mars discovered music, alcohol and young ladies well before his 15th birthday. As a weekly boarder, Monday to Saturday 12 noon, Mars had been seen as the instigator of many pranks and, according to most teachers, was the most troublesome youth they'd ever encountered. His jocular manner, unswerving loyalty to friends, made him a very popular figure amongst his peer group. Unfortunately, his behaviour whilst at Epsom College only endeared him to one teacher, his music tutor. Mars learnt piano as an 8-year-old and to play guitar when he was 13. He started bands at school, and whilst keen, none of his peer group shared his passion for performing, or acting the fool for that matter. His father, meanwhile, did nothing to steer his errant son away from his wild ways, seeing the behaviour of his young offspring as a necessary part of growing up. His father, a successful artist, always promoted liberalism and encouraged the young Mars to be a free thinker. It wasn't until Mars moved on to the London Institute, an arts college, now known as the University of Arts London, that Mars formed his first proper band. Art college suited Mars. He was surrounded by like minds that allowed his creative juices to flow. No longer heralded as a nuisance or a troublemaker, he and his band were soon touring the smaller venues in and around London and the southeast of England. His charisma and exuberance, coupled with a love of life, captured the hearts of many a young woman as the band moved from pubs to clubs. However, whilst they acquired a cult following, the money they earned from their music was nothing more than pocket money. This would prove to be a frustrating time for all concerned. There were times when the young Mars would get moody and climb into his dark place, one he first discovered upon the death of his mother. At these times, friends who knew him well would leave him alone, knowing that he would shake off the gloom within a couple of days. After all, anyone who lives on such highs is entitled to recuperate from time to time, and Miles always burnt the candle at both ends. In 1991, now aged 26, Miles and the band, the Waxers, signed for a small independent record label and set off for California. They were booked into various bars and small clubs to promote the launch of their third single, their first in the US. Miles felt the band was really on its way, and in late 1991, their single, For You, hit 91 in the Billboard US chart. Success was more than a possibility. At that time, we were beginning to witness the emergence of the boy band phenomena, a time when record companies started to ignore music as art, and talented musicians were left clinging on to little or no hope of breaking through. It was easy to control a boy band in every possible way, from the grooming the stereotypical kid who'd been to stage school to supplying and controlling the formulaic material they were told to perform. Miles and the band never broke out of the small bars and clubs on the music circuit in California, and by 1993 the band broke up. One good thing happened though. Miles met a young designer who had been following the band in and around the bars on their tours, Tate Madison. Tate caught the eye of the 29-year-old Miles. She was so different, always smiling, laughing, and more importantly, always there. Miles continued touring the bars, gigging with other US and UK bands, and in 1995 married Tate. She was and is the love of his life. Miles gave up gigging in 1998 without further success. To some extent, these were dark years, no success. Some interest from larger record companies, but nothing that ever led to anything. Even the amount he got paid for a gig hadn't changed much, and Tate was forced into working to make ends meet. They purchased a house in Glendale, California, using some money Miles's father had left him, but have remortgaged the home twice subsequently. At first, Miles picked up musical work for local radio stations, writing jingles, but bored with that work very quickly. He started writing songs for a music publisher and slavishly followed the latest new musical trends or fads, writing for boys bands first, then girl bands, some semi-rap material, solo artists, etc. None of this work had been financially successful, as it always seemed that Miles was one step behind the current trends. He gets up every day between 10 and 11 a.m. and after a coffee locks himself away in his garage studio located off the kitchen and emerges at 1 or 2 in the morning, the proverbial night owl. Sometimes both English and American musician friends turn up at the house unannounced and stay for 2 or 3 days while gigging their way through the bar circuit. This drives Tate mad, as she does her best to keep the house tidy. Meanwhile, her husband's friends litter the home with beer cans and smoke to the early hours of the morning. Their marriage is coming under pressure, and this is where he begins his part in the story. In 2006, he walks with his shoulders hunched, barely raising a smile, having slid into a depression that goes unrecognised by either himself or Tate. The man with a love for life and an acute sense of fun has moved little by little to a place where the sun rarely shines.
Maybe I was wrong about you this time. Maybe I was right all along. People tell me you were always cheating. Why to say these things now you are gone? Maybe I should have gotten a message sooner. Maybe I should have stayed on my own. I'm gonna go and spread the word about you, how you went and left me on my own. I always trusted you, let me down. You're nothing but a heartbreaker. Should have seen it in your eyes. You're nothing but a love faker. Should have seen through your disguise. Did you ever feel
Angela Rebecca Holman. Angela was born in New York in 1976. Her earliest recollections were living in a vast home opposite Central Park, where a string of nannies would come and go with monotonous regularity. Her mother blamed the young child for the loss of her figure, and her father would lock her in a room when guests arrived for dinner parties. To her parents, Michael and Lisbeth, Angela was an unnecessary distraction and an unwanted one. He was a banker, now in 2006 retired, and she a socialite. When her father was away on business trips, the young Angela remembers catching her mother frequently with different men in her parents' bedroom. On these occasions, she would scream at Angela and lock the child in the father's study. At 8 years of age, Angela started her education at boarding school. Angela felt isolated at school. She made no real friends, and despite her high intellect, deliberately failed exams, missed classes, and was generally disruptive. The school would then write to her parents, requesting their help in taming the errant Angela, and somehow her father would smooth over the school. Angela later found out this was done by making donations to the school, and life would go on. The end of term always proved the worst, for two reasons. Firstly, her parents had failed to send someone to collect her on 2 occasions, and secondly, what would the holidays be like? Invariably, she would be sent off to her aunt's house as she got older, where her aunt taught her about the facts of life. Aunt Esther was a domineering woman. The sister of Angela's mother, she employed a strict regime with the adolescent Angela. Punishments for bad school reports would include not being allowed to talk for 3 or 4 days at the beginning of a holiday. At first, Angela found these holidays onerous, but as the years passed by, she found techniques for overcoming these periods, which only served to make her more isolated and remote. Her aunt's loathing of men, she was a spinster, only fueled Angela's inherent distrust of men, as her father's attitude towards her worsened as she reached adulthood. Mostly, this was caused by her mother's jealousy of the now very attractive young woman. She couldn't bear the competition with her only child. School wasn't all bad, though. Angela learnt to ride horses, ski, and what to say and what not to say in varying social situations. She had a comprehensive understanding of social etiquette, and as time went on, became very astute at the art of social manipulation. This had become necessary to make life easier, both at school, at her aunt's house, and on the rare occasion she stayed with her parents. Outside of the bubble that had been created by her informative years, Angela was wild. Dances arranged with the local boys' boarding school invariably ended in full sex for Angela. She thought that this was the way to be accepted by young men, and sex meant nothing to her in any case. By the time Angela left school, she had acquired all the necessary weapons to function in life. Although insular and willful, she was able to project to others precisely what she wanted to project: warm and friendly, loud and fun, demure and thoughtful, an actress in life. In reality, she desperately needed to be loved. She had now become 2 different people: the private persona, racked by insecurities, and her public persona, confident and full of life. On the day she left school, she was presented by her parents with a loft apartment in New York. Her father had already organised a job with a long-term friend, Abe Weinstein. Abe had a clientele in his jewellery business that read like the who's who of New York society. He was a good man and was fond of Angela, teaching her the ins and outs of the jewellery business and his designer accessories range for women, which she took to with some relish. In 2002, aged 26, she was offered the opportunity to work for a leading fashion house in Los Angeles, as her skills had brought her to the attention of several fashion businesses. She left New York and moved to LA. Her personal life was still a mess. She found it hard to let her guard down, and in personal relationships had several bad experiences with men. However, men found it difficult to fathom Angela, and men of her own age group could not cope with her ever-changing persona. She always seemed like fun for the first few weeks of a relationship, but as the relationship progressed, she became more isolated. In effect, as a man became closer, she would start to pull away. Angela knew these problems well. She understood herself well. She knew that within days of a relationship starting, that she'd be looking to find faults in a man. She knew this was also unreasonable, but it couldn't be helped. She tried using social drugs to mask her problems, but this ultimately exacerbated them. On several occasions she'd been hit by men within a relationship. There was no excuse for violence, and mostly it was drug or alcohol fueled, born out of frustration and lack of understanding of this young woman. Needless to say, it affirmed her aunt's advice that all men were animals and only served to make it even more difficult to give anything of herself within a relationship. Despite her personal life, Angela portrayed a different persona at work. Her abilities unquestionable, she rose quickly within the fashion house. With her own office and a team of designers working with her, she appeared the complete businesswoman. With an acute sense of style and an ability to understand the high-end fashion business, she has become a key name in the fashion world, despite her age. By 2006, when this story begins, she reports directly to the president of the company and has direct control of purchasing and inventory for her department of the business. Her social drug abuse has become a way of life, but it's not yet out of control. She's given up on relationships with men and only socialises with men in the course of work. She spends evenings and weekends either working in the LA fashion house or in her apartment listening to music, drinking alcohol and taking pills to forget.
A beautiful heart, beautiful mind, beautiful flowers are so hard to find. Oh, I tripped and I stumbled and fall to my knees. I'm floating on air like a bird on the breeze. It's a trip to my heart, a trip to my head, a trip to the future. It's one that I dread. Sitting alone here, all fingers and thumbs, waiting for your love, but you never come. Oh, I've given my heart to you, given my love to you. Beautiful daydream, beautiful daydream. My love goes on and on and on. I give you everything you ever dreamed of. Don't tell me no, there's no logical reason. Just talk to me, yeah. Why don't you talk to me, yeah.
Tate Kingsley. Tate has always been a happy soul. Her mother says she was born smiling. She really is the girl next door, uncomplicated, kind and romantic. She's down to earth and loyal. She has a myriad of friends from her earliest and formative years through to her days at the University of California, where she studied fashion and design. Her quiet upbringing in a middle-class LA suburb, attending the local first school, was uneventful compared to the first three characters. Everyone likes and admires her. At 35, she looks good. Pretty, with a sense of fun, she appears to take everything in her stride, particularly Mars. Her mother claims Mars was the worst thing that ever happened to her, but Tate always ignores this and carries on as if her mother hadn't spoken. When she first met Mars, Tate was in her last year of university. It was love at first sight. He had everything, gorgeous looks, coupled with a wit she'd not encountered before. He was going to make it, and after he had, she would design part-time, and life would take them wherever they wanted it to. They had waited till she finished her course before getting married. She was totally committed to him and worked to help make ends meet. She now finds herself working as a manageress at the local 7-Eleven convenience store. It's not, and it never was, what she hoped for in life. She really wanted a career in her chosen field of design, followed by 2 or 3 children. She has a portfolio of designs that she has sketched over the years, but has all but given up hope of a career in fashion. She doesn't blame Mars for the way things have turned out, but she finds it hard to cope with his mood, a black cloud which now extends into their personal life. Occasionally they go out together, but this, it seems, is confined to birthdays and Christmas. She runs the home on her own, clears up after his musician friends when they stay in her house uninvited, and life has taken on a bleak perspective. She surmises that one day Mars will have his breakthrough and everything will return to normal. Her mother tells her it would have happened by now, if it was ever going to happen. She tries not to let her situation get her down. She has talked to Miles about his mood, and he does seem to get better for a few days, but she's beginning to wonder whether anything will ever change. Her friends are supportive, but there's only so much friends can do. Even she is beginning to change. She's getting headaches in the evenings and crying occasionally for no apparent reason. Something has to change.
Moving through white chiffon to the velvet sea. I don't know where she's going, where she's taking me. Her auburn hair is blowing in the cool sea breeze. Her feather dress is flowing, China skin like beaches. Something strange is going on. This is so surreal. Then I'll wake up to find she's only a dream. Only a dream. What does it mean? She's only a dream.
Pat Riley. Pat's father was a policeman, and so was his grandfather. It was unquestionable that Pat would be anything else, and so it came to pass. Pat married Claire in Chicago in 1973, and in his own words, it was the best thing I've ever done. He was 26 when they married, and she was 22. They'd known each other as children, and they could easily have married when she was 18, but Pat held out. He can't explain why to this day, but he did. They had no children. They tried, but it just didn't happen. Pat and Claire were similar in every respect. They thought the same way, they liked the same things, and they did the same things. They were warm and friendly, with a wonderful sense of humour. Nothing was too much trouble. They would do anything for anyone, and always with smiles on their faces. He retired from Chicago PD in 2002. It had always been a dream of theirs to open a bar when he retired. They looked in Florida, but found their dream in California. Pat had a vision. He wanted a bar where ex-policemen and off-duty policemen could drop in and talk shop. He wanted a couple of pool tables, a darts board, and an area where guys could sit down, eat, drink, and watch football. He purchased the bar in Glendale, complete with dance floor, which he immediately covered with 3 pool tables. The internal neon lights were never turned on, and spotlights, once trained on the dance floor, were aimed towards the dartboard area. The modern furniture was removed and stored in a lock-up garage, and more suitable furniture from another time brought in to replace it. Up went the Budweiser and Miller Lite signs, and down came the pulsating neon cocktail signs. Gradually, over a period of 18 months, Pat got his dream. The bar was reasonably busy for 4 years. He and Claire established a reputation for good home-cooked food, a genial atmosphere, and much merriment when Pat told his tall stories. Life was good for both of them. In January 2006, Claire started having stomach cramps. X-rays failed to show anything, and it was thought that she might have contracted a virus. Painkillers were prescribed. But she required more as cramps became more severe. A full body scan confirmed their worst nightmare. Claire had cancer. She started a course of chemotherapy. Pat looked after Claire single-handedly. His bar emptied as time moved on. It was hard to run the bar when she needed him so much. Also, getting temporary staff was proving impossible, and this is where Pat joins the story.